if we simply leaned in to discomfort as a catalyst for improvement and change and said, like, every single time I feel discomfort, something good is coming after this, because there is going to be a change that is going to happen, and that is going to help me to grow as a person.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Rachel, and Isley told you specifically to give more wait time. And
She
you didn't
did,
do
and
it.
I didn't do it.
You didn't do it.
I forgot.
There was a butterfly. Oh, a butterfly flew by, and all the instructions went right out the window.
Right out the window. I just
Sorry,
blacked
Isley.
out. Does that happen to everyone else?
Wait. Perfect for our new segment.
Yeah, so
entitled, Is It Just Me?
Oh. I'm going to lose this now that my handle's broken. Well, I have a different one for Is It Just Me? But I honestly, as we started talking, I forgot.
Wow. Is it just me, or do you forget things mid-sentence? Wait, so I have to talk about your handle for a second, because this is I just feel like this is so you. This whole story is so you. Okay, so Kelsey has had tumblers on tumblers on tumblers. She has lots of tumblers. All of them are there you go. There's another one if you're watching on YouTube. She's got two just in this. Okay, but show that one. So the CVG ones are oh, look at how gorgeous it is with your name and stuff.
It has my name on
how
it,
cute.
Yeah.
So our tumblers are the best for like keep cold. They're so cute. Like
Mine's
the designs.
so hot. I have hot coffee in there, and I put it in there probably 6:30.
You can't drink hot coffee in June.
I can do whatever I want. I start my day with hot coffee every day.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. It's weird.
Not like it's warm in June because we're in Massachusetts, but still, there's like a cut date where you have to stop the hot coffee, and you're just, look at you going again. Look at you, you little rebel.
I do what I want. This is how I live my life.
Oh my God! All right, pull those up so the biceps show. I'm for that.
I get it.
You know what, you work so hard for them, you gotta just make sure the T's are there. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you gotta watch on YouTube, guys. You just missed a flex if you didn't. So here's the thing. So she has all of these amazing tumblers. However, our tumblers do not have a handle, and most people, that's totally fine. Kelsey, on the other hand, has spilled her tumbler in the office now going on, I don't know, 7 times. People hear a noise and they look a day. Yeah. People hear a noise and they look and they're like, did Kelsey spill her tumbler? Like, it's like that. It's like, if there's any noise at all, we know what happened. It's Kelsey and she spilled. She has her own paper towels that are just on her desk. So
at one time I was walking with my tumbler and I dropped it in a way that it literally bounced up and then splashed me in the face with water, like in my mascara. Like it was it was a whole
spilling, and then there's professional spillers. And listen, people with ADHD can spill like no others. Like, if you've never seen someone splash their own mascara by spilling on the floor, like, I have someone for you to meet.
I've got a spiller for you.
My son and Kelsey. So we had to get her a special handle because it's easier for her to not spill. Oh, and the bottom has rubber too. That's the other thing. So it can't slide on the table.
And it has like a really secure top so that when I hit it, I don't spill. So I not only spill like while I'm walking or holding, but if it's on my desk, I usually am just reaching for things. So my hands are going a little wild and I spill it over. So it has a secure top.
There's no limit. There's no limit to the places or the situations in which Kelsey can spill. It's unlimited. She could be sitting, she could be walking, it doesn't matter. And somehow she has managed to break the handle off of the, I don't
I
even,
broke the handle. It's like a secure, like
it's like
titanium.
bolted on.
Like I have a talent for breaking things.
I
You
know,
know what?
girl.
That's why I say I test our leggings though, because if someone's gonna break these, it's gonna be me.
It's so true. We're like, oh, how are those holding up? Like, how's the stitching holding up? Like, and every single time Mark says, well, like, have they been on Kelsey yet? Because that's how you know. That's how you're going to know. This girl can destruct titanium handles. Okay. And it's only been like 2 weeks with that water bottle. Like,
Yeah.
she is the ultimate destructor. So, maybe, now that that one's broken, we can just because I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
The sounds are going to start happening again.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
sounds of spilling.
Yeah. If I
So
totally break it off.
that's what I mean.
Are you guys, does anybody out there have this as well? Are you like a chronic spiller? Let me tell you something about me. This has been a lifelong journey of spilling,
It's true.
and it has been some from my childhood, memorable like instances, probably fairly traumatic, are me not being able to eat dinner with the rest of my family because I spilled too many times and I had to go away. I was spilling too much. I had to go away, or I had to sit on my hands, and I would literally sit on the stairs and wait for everyone to be done because I was causing too much chaos with my spilling and my moving. But I wanted to be a participant, but I just couldn't control my body yet.
Mm,
I don't know if yet belongs there.
no, it doesn't. Well, just take that last little part out. And I sat at so many tables with you, spilling everything and
Yeah.
driving dad up a wall. And I will just say, I want to say a special thank you to you because I now have a reincarnation of you for my child. It's like that weird karma, kind of like, I don't know.
That was a blessing.
Of course, I didn't mean weird karma. I meant a blessing. So, but anyways, I got little Kelsey in a boy form as my son, and he spills everything. And I am so much better equipped to deal with and handle the frustration that comes along with somebody who spills everything. And honestly, it's so normal to me now that I'm just like,
True.
yeah, I think I'm so much better equipped to handle it. So thank you for paving the way for the spillers in our family. You're doing God's work.
God, look at that wonderful reframe too about just feeling better equipped, because a lot of times, you know, it's really important to look at our experiences in a way of making us better equipped for something. And you might not even know what the thing is yet, guys, that like some of your experiences will pan out later in the future. You never do know, because sometimes like I heard this thing recently, like if you could have a 30 or a 60-second phone call with you at any previous point in your life, what would you say? And like what age would you call yourself? And it's just some of these weird things that like you think back and you're like, wow, didn't know that this was going to pan out this way, or didn't know I was going to be able to use this experience later in the future, or like that this would make me better equipped for the child you never even knew was coming. Like it's just like so many things that we can not understand in the moment, but later looking back you're like, yeah.
Hello, 23-year-old Rachel. Please put sunscreen on your freaking face. Stop going out into the sun bare ass naked with no sunscreen. Oh, look at my phone.
Yeah, that's your phone.
That's
That's
how
not how
old
we
I
do the
am.
phone
Okay,
anymore.
no.
You're just gonna use your dial up as well. Just
Oh my God, I hate myself right now. Okay, I'm
Is
going to
that who
this.
you would call
This
for
doesn't even
20?
look like a phone though. Like
I know
I know, but
it's
like,
kind of awkward actually.
that's what I'm saying.
I think we should go back to this.
All right, so I'm calling myself and saying, just, you are an idiot. Stop using
No.
toner.
It's
What are you doing? Moisturize. What are you doing?
So Rachel's
Oh,
calling her 23-year-old self. Guys, who are
mm,
you calling? Who are you calling? I want to know.
I want to
This
know
is an
too.
interesting. It's a tough one for me. I think uh I think I'm not sure exactly what age I'm calling. It might be middle school. And I think I'm probably saying like you're not dumb.
Oh,
And like I mean it's a 60-second phone call so I could probably get a lot in. But I would probably say like, and you're not like you are weird, but that's a good thing. Your
girl,
weird's gonna pan out.
you're gonna end up with degrees and
Yeah.
success, and don't even worry about the social studies, okay? You're not gonna use it, it's not that important. I'm I would
Coming from a
love to.
history teacher.
I know. I just want to be a fly on the wall for that convo. No, I always said to my kids, like, hey, you guys are learning how to learn here. That's the
Mm,
important thing. We're
mhm.
not like trying to transpose facts from my brain into your brain. That's not the point. You are learning how to learn. You are learning how to be uncomfortable. You
Yeah.
are learning how to go about the process of growing yourself in your mind, in your spirit. And as that was, to me, that was what teaching was about. It wasn't about like,
Mhm.
when was the War of 1812? And I had kids get that one wrong.
Yeah.
What year was the War of
There's
1812?
there's still there's videos going around on the internet of that exact question and grown adults getting it wrong.
God, they were probably in my class. Um, today's topic is so good and it's so important and it's so now because I think we're finally ready to talk about this because there was a time in the world when this topic and the idea of like being uncomfortable and seeking discomfort out and stuff was so off putting because the world in itself was going through a time, it was a time
It was a
where
time.
we were all really, really uncomfortable. And I'm not going to say that that made, anyone better necessarily. But what I am going to say is I understood why people wanted to give themselves a break at that particular time. I understand why people were having a hard time with the idea of adding purposeful discomfort into their life. But I will say that getting too much stuck in that mindset of I want my life is there are uncomfortable parts of my life and the world has uncomfortable things going on, and so therefore my whole goal for myself is just to seek out comfort. I'm telling you guys, that is the killer of any kind of growth and goal setting. It's just not possible without discomfort. And I think that we've like swung into a direction, perhaps because of the pandemic, where we are so much of the day is spent seeking out comfort. And so many products are aimed at giving us more comfort. And everything, all of the marketing around us is about how we can be so comfortable. And I just think that we need to counteract that because it can really it can lead you down a road of complacency that I think when you look back, you'll say, shoot, I wish I had been a little less comfortable because the things that I wanted weren't weren't right there. They weren't in that comfort zone.
Yeah. I think when we start to talk about change and we start to think about change, change has gotten kind of it's been through phases, right? It's gotten kind of a negative connotation, then it's gotten this like beautiful butterfly image on it, and I think that it is neither of those things, honestly. I think that when you talk about change and you think about transformation and think about what comes on the other end of that, there's been really two camps where like it's going to be the worst thing ever and it's like so uncomfortable and you need to be puking every time, or it's going to be like this beautiful transformation. And then when people realize that change is not as comfortable as they would want it to be, then it's kind of a scary thing, and we kind of turn away and lean away from it. And really thinking about like discomfort in itself doesn't need to be negative. It doesn't need to be necessarily a negative experience, but it's a weird thing because it doesn't necessarily mean it's positive either. So it's kind of like the human experience. We can't put it in a box of you are this or you are that, because you are all kinds of things. And sometimes being uncomfortable is great, and sometimes it is not so great. But in all of that, it is the catalyst for change. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I've been thinking about being in a change season for myself and what that means and what that looks like and what I want to get out of that at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people, when they're in a change season, they they tend to shrink back from it a little bit and try and find pieces of comfort for themselves, which is, there's a place for that as well. But being able to sit in some of the uncomfortableness and really think about what it means like and what it means and what it feels like for you is a really great opportunity to learn more about yourself and to become, a different, a more grown version of yourself that you would not have the ability to kind of see and work through if you didn't sit in that uncomfortable for a minute.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where recognizing that it's normal to seek comfort, that like that's a survival skill that your brain is like equipped with on purpose. In that it's normal, but just recognizing that you're doing it and saying like, I'm always trying to seek comfort. I know this inherently about myself as a human being, and that's normal. However, growth is not going to happen in that particular area. So, like, if we're saying, I know that I'm always seeking out comfort, but I want to improve my job situation, I want to improve professionally, I want to improve my health and fitness, I want to improve some of my relationships, I want to be a better parent. If you have goals, they are not going to necessarily be accomplished in comfort. And so I think that just allowing both of those things into your scope and saying, like, everything in me is going to want to be comfortable. However, if I have these goals, I'm going to have to accept that I'm going to need to fight against that urge a little bit. And I think that, obviously, all we talk about when we talk about health and fitness is like, it's not a fight with your body. It's not like a you versus your mind and like a war and a willpower thing. And that's why I wanted to take this opportunity to reframe discomfort because I think it has a bad rap. I think feelings of like anxiety or being uncomfortable or overwhelmed or like just a little like all of those, we know the knee jerk reactions when we feel those in ourselves. They've gotten like a that's bad, avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, well, society has really built from like an evolutionary standpoint. Everything that we have created has been to eliminate that. Like just thinking about like social media and technology, like that is there so that you never have to feel awkward, uncomfortable in like times of silence, in times of solitude, in times of even like, sitting with other people in front of you. And you are like, well, I don't want to feel awkward. I just go on my phone. And like, Uber, like we have food delivered to us, and every time, like every part of like how we've evolved as a society has been built around like what are the things that we can do to make everyone more comfortable. And that's totally natural. But on the other side of that, we have had things that have been designed to create uncomfortable circumstances. And you think about the uptick in things like ultra marathons and Spartan races, CrossFit, things that are designed to make people uncomfortable. And they're signing up for these things. Now, if you think about that from like an evolutionary standpoint, or just like if you thought about people in 1920 thinking about people pay money to sign up to run 100 miles, there's wait lists. They would be like, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy, right? Because that idea there was a level of uncomfortable experiences at that time that people would never seek out that level of discomfort in order to challenge themselves. We're in a society right now where we have created so many, comfortable pillars around us that it has created a space for seeking out these other things that say, like, I know inherently that I need to feel uncomfortable and I'm going to pay money or I'm going to be on a wait list, or I'm going to, to feel that level of discomfort, because we have both of those things within us where we do know on a certain level that we need to seek those things out.
It's true. And paying money to be uncomfortable and we talked about it a little bit with the cold plunge too, of
Yeah.
like training your brain, and why are people doing this? And it's like it's so true. The world has become so comfortable, but we know inherently deep down the benefits of being uncomfortable. And according to a recent study, when people were asked, what is the number one trait that you admire in others? They said, overwhelmingly, as the number one answer, openness to change.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, so we know we admire this in other people, and we know the ability to change needs a level of discomfort. However, it doesn't jive with what we're being told every single day, of like, so we could admire those things, but every day we're being told like, just get takeout, it's
Yeah.
easy. And we
Do you know,
also do
you
this with
know,
parenting too.
Mhm.
I was just going to say, like, everybody, the number one thing you don't want to have is like a spoiled brat, right? You don't provide your kid every comfort, because we know that, like, an adult that has been raised being provided every single comfort that there could be is a brat. They don't have any resiliency. That's like the worst thing for a parent. We actively try to avoid that. We try to make situations where our kid doesn't have everything they've ever wanted, because that's not a great personality trait. But like, then we're going and giving ourselves every comfort, which is like a weird
Dichotomy, yeah.
juxtaposition.
hmm You know what I was thinking about when you say something about that, when we admire this quality in other people and openness to change? It's such an interesting thing to think about, because if you admire some of these qualities, when you look outside and you say, I admire those in other people, to me, that is a bell goes off that says, like, that should be something that is on the forefront that I should try and emulate in my everyday life. And something that comes to mind when you say that is just like, people are constantly changing, and they are, when you're in relationships with, and I'm not talking about just like, intimate relationships, I'm talking about platonic relationships, everything. So people are constantly changing, and the ability to see change in another person is really important for the evolution of that relationship, and being able to almost allow others and yourself to change and change your reactions to that. And something that always comes to mind is like when you say, like, Jessica always reacts this way. And it's like, perhaps at one point that was a reaction, but we have to allow ourselves, like, the same way that we think about comfort and we think about repetitiveness and being able to rely on someone, we rely on their negative traits as well, that we would consider negative, but they are reliable. So we're always looking for them to say, like, this is what always happens when I do this, when I say this. But it really doesn't allow for ourselves and people around us to maybe have a different reaction. Like, if you're saying to yourself, like, I always stop working out after 1 week, I always quit after 6 months, like, you're retelling that story of a version of yourself that you no longer are. And you have the opportunity every day to make that change and to decide, I am a person who sticks by the things that I say I'm going to do. I am a person who is going to continuously seek out discomfort because I am changing. And just because I've always done something doesn't mean I always will. And like, give yourself that permission first, and then give yourself that permission in your relationships to allow someone to show something different, to maybe be something different, and to, if they're to allow that change to happen and accept it. Like, maybe that was what they always did, but they're different now because people are changing.
It's so interesting how intertwined comfort and the story that we tell ourselves really is. It's so, and I don't think people think of them together a lot, but really the story that you have for yourself, whatever it is, negative or positive, and obviously you have different parts that are going to be, more negative or more positive. It's based on the comfort that you've provided yourself up until this point, that repetitious behavior. And that's why, we always see people struggle so hard with in their relationships when they're trying to make a change and the other person is sometimes actively trying.
Withholding, yeah.
Yes. And it's so hard to watch because some of these changes, actually, almost all of these changes are for the positive, but they aren't part of the story of that person thus far. And of course, the person's story is intertwined into all of their relationships. And so it becomes a discomfort for the other person. And now we're trying to be comfortable on so many levels, right? We're trying to be comfortable in ourselves, and we're trying to be comfortable in the predictable behaviors of others that we spend a lot of time with. And it's like all of that could be reframed if we simply leaned in to discomfort as a catalyst for improvement and change, and like really embraced that and said, like, every single time I feel discomfort, something good is coming after this, because there is going to be a change that is going to happen, and that is going to help me to grow as a person. We say this with our kids all the time, and we stop practicing it with ourselves, and it's like so backwards. And I think that the first step in starting to go about this, because it's going to be hard to seek out discomfort, guys. Like, we're not saying like, oh, just start doing it. It's going to be, I mean, yes, it goes against biologically what you want to do. So of course, anything like that is going to be a skill that's going to need to be practiced, just like all the other skills that, bring you success. But I think that the first thing in starting to put this into place is that you stop suppressing negative emotions. Like, that's really step one, because
I'm putting negative in air bunnies for a second.
for sure, yeah. Whatever
Um,
because that's so like up for
yes,
debate, right?
totally. And I've like grappled with this a lot because one of the like, motivations for change a lot for me, it has always been, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I'm going to just like hit hard in the other direction. But also, it's really important to feel some of those negative emotions instead of kind of pushing them off and ignoring them and just pretending like they aren't happening, because you're sweeping your discomfort under the rug, and it can't live there. It's going to come out in one way or another, and it's important to be able to confront some of those negative emotions and then decide, because you're taking the wheel, right? You're taking the wheel in your life, and ultimately that's the goal, that you're the driver in your life, and that there's going to be other cars on the road, but you are the driver in your life, and that ownership is very important. So when you feel those emotions and actually feel with them and process them and say, like, these are really uncomfortable, and this is making me challenge some of the things that I previously thought, some of the typical reactions to something. This is challenging all of those thoughts. So maybe if I could sit in that for a second, I could sift through what is uncomfortable, what I don't like, what's really the problem here, like what's knocking. Because that's how I always think about discomfort. Like it's knocking, like it's giving, the universe is giving you like a nudge, and it's like you feel upset, you feel sad, and, or like you feel some type of way for like, I don't want to say like an extended period of time, but it's not just momentarily. You're like having this ongoing like feeling, and it happens within your body too. Like your body comes knocking when something's wrong, and you keep ignoring it, you keep ignoring it. But like, how loud is that knock going to get before you answer the door? Because it's coming.
I think, you know, the ability to not suppress negative emotions is, first of all, we need to recognize that we're coming into this with potential trauma, right? Like your childhood is going to totally come into play when you think about your ability to like sit with, you know, negative emotions and process them and not sweep them under the rug. But I just want to highlight how necessary they are, because joy doesn't feel like joy without sorrow.
Yeah.
So to just pick the ones that you want, like off a list, like a menu, I'll take joy, I'll take love,
Laughter, I'll
I'll
take
take,
it.
right? Like,
I
but you don't appreciate
want to
how
ignore the human experience.
it's
Step first.
not the human experience without the other things. And joy is never, ever gonna feel as sweet without sorrow. And recognizing that those two things are together, they are literally necessary for one and the other to exist, makes it less like get rid of all of the sorrow and set up my life so that there is no potential for sorrow. And because then you start thinking, well, then is there a potential for true joy then?
Yeah.
And like, am I willing to give that up? And I say to my son all the time, like about feelings, you know, like, you know, because you're always hearing it, like, you feel a feeling, you don't judge it, you just feel it, you hug it, and then you let it go. You don't want to sit with sorrow. I mean, of course, we want to sit with joy, but like,
Hold on to this.
you don't get to sit with any one thing for too long, and just taking note of that so you're not ever afraid for the joy to go away, because like, you know, eventually their sorrow will come, and that's okay. That's okay. They both have to exist together. And I really want to just kind of put that out there as a potential for every single time you think about suppressing something negative or taking a route that would avoid, that you think would avoid. Of course, there is no avoiding, right? But like taking these safe paths, is that, you know, feeling loved just doesn't feel the same if you haven't also been rejected.
Mm-hmm.
These things have to be working together, and you can't actively avoid one because you're trying to find the other, because the one doesn't come without the other.
It's so true. It's so true also when you're thinking about just you know, when it's temporary discomfort. Because when you're looking for, and we talked about this when we talked about you know, delayed gratification. So all of the, you know, all of these things, like these themes kind of like work together, and it's really important to kind of like sift through all of them. But when it comes to temporary discomfort, when we're kind of looking at some of the smaller knocks, when we're looking at some of the smaller signs, then you're looking towards heading off a major one, right? Like you, because like it's going to come no matter what. So if we continuously ignore something that says like, I think you need to change here, I think you need to look at this, I think that there's something wrong, and people do this so much with their health. That's why I think it's so important to really like dive in, because you know, we always hear the big stories about like, well, I had a heart attack and then, you know, I decided that it was time to change my lifestyle, which sometimes is necessary for people. But we hope that maybe the 30 signs before that we might be able to head it off and look at some of the temporary discomfort that we might experience when it comes to making some lifestyle adjustments there before it comes to the time where you have a heart attack. And that's like such an important one. I think a lot of people can resonate with that because they know that like there are so many signs before a crisis really happens. And ignoring that a crisis is, potential if you continue to ignore some of these things is just like looking at it really like real for what it is.
That's true. I mean, it's hard.
Your life
It
is happening.
Yeah, and
It's
I know.
going.
It's
Yeah, no
going.
matter what.
It's going, and all of these things are coming, and the actively trying to avoid the discomfort honestly just brings more discomfort, which it's like
Yeah.
opposite land. So, I think the one important thing that I learned when I was looking into this, I was researching this, is that I think this is really all about the way we frame
Yeah.
discomfort, and as a negative, that makes us avoid it, because there was this study that they did on discomfort, and they basically took two groups and they said, like, this group is going to have the advice of, okay, we want you to actively seek out discomfort. You are successful in this experiment if you are uncomfortable and or anxious or feeling in any way discomfort. That's how you've won this experiment. And the other group, they told, all you're here to do is learn. You're just trying to learn from these experiences. And they put them in different arenas. So, like, there was an exercise group. One group told you're supposed to actively be seeking out discomfort. One told you're just here to learn. In improv, like, comedy or acting, there was a politics group and there was a writing group. So they put them in these tasks and they said, like, okay, you guys try to be uncomfortable and you guys just try to learn. And across the board, the group that was told that their goal was to be uncomfortable was more successful in every single thing that they did. They reported having better workouts, leaving feeling more accomplished than those who hadn't had that directive. For the improv group, they had like an independent audience just watch and rate the people. They were all beginners at improv. They all rated the group that was trying to actively be uncomfortable as better and higher and like more entertaining to watch. The political group, they said, how do you, they made them like read opposing viewpoints, like that would, the group that was asked to seek out discomfort reported having learned more and been more open to new ideas, and the other group, not the same. And then, like, obviously, the group being asked to write, the ones that were being asked to find discomfort wrote about tough things.
Yeah.
And when they got out of it, they left feeling like saying they have like grown emotionally, and they were really glad they wrote about those things, and they feel like freer and just better. And the other group just wrote about bullshit, and
Yeah.
but like, we told those people that was the goal, and they all left the experience better for it. What if everybody reframed discomfort as being the goal and saying, like, success is going to follow right after the discomfort. And if I find the discomfort, success is going to come. And so, like, it's not mystified as like this bad thing anymore that we're trying to avoid. It's like, that's what I'm looking for, because I know what comes after that. And it's me being just better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, essentially that's what we're all trying to do. And we know the answer. Like, this is the test and we know the answer. But putting, words to it and putting logic to it and putting actions behind it and knowing when it's time to look at discomfort and in what ways we can look at discomfort, I think is a skill that we develop over time. And one of the things I think about when it comes to health and fitness, and people know to look for discomfort. That's why fad diets or these life overhauls have become so popular. And it's something that people look for right away because they say, I know I need to be uncomfortable. Let me just do all of this. But I think it's important that when we talk about some of those, overhauls, we also insert time, because time is a really important part of discomfort and a really important part of change, because we overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can do in a decade. And what we can do in a day, in a year, in a decade, when it comes to healing our relationship with our body, when it comes to healing our relationship with food, when it comes to, creating sustainable change for ourselves, is a good amount of time. It's a really good amount of time, but it comes with, these small acts that we are uncomfortable and we have decided and committed and are willing to make a change that we know is going to be uncomfortable and we know is for ourselves essentially and is going to make us better. And I think sometimes if we can just insert the fact that, like, at the end of this discomfort, you are going to get the thing that you're chasing. It might look different than you think it is now, but like you are going to get it. Because I remember at the beginning of and I call it like my health and fitness journey, because like I was active throughout my whole life, but I had a changing moment where I started to look at health and fitness differently. But it came over, a time, but it started with looking at my body differently over time. And it started with one, going to CrossFit was my like moment. But 10 years later, here I am 10 years later, I had never imagined my first day in CrossFit that I wouldn't care what my body looked like 10 years from now. I
There's your
entered in
decade.
the door. Yeah, there's your decade. I entered in the door with the idea of I want to look a certain way. I want to lose body fat. I entered in the door with that idea. But what I came out with was not what I thought I wanted at the beginning. It's so much better.
It usually is.
It's so much better from leaning into that discomfort, day after day, and learning more about yourself and learning more, like leaning more inward and seeing some of the different things that come along that path. And then looking back 10 years later and then being like, whoa, that is not where I thought this was going.
It's so true. I mean, using we're always looking for how do I know I'm doing this right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so, so important to seeking validation of I have to know if I'm on the right track, because we've been so conditioned that you can't waste any time. God forbid you waste time learning something. Instead, just put it into place all right now, today, and just figure it all out. And we're worried constantly that we don't have enough evidence that we're on the right track. And what if we're not? And what if we're not doing it right? And that is obviously a huge reason to why there's this, now we're not eating carbs. Now we're Mediterranean. Now now there's no fats. Wait, just kidding. All the fats. That's because we are constantly seeking out that validation of, am I doing it right? And I'm wondering if we used some feelings of discomfort as a marker for hey, you're on the right track, because change is going to be uncomfortable. If you are trying to change something and it's making you feel anxious to sign up to be considered for a promotion, or if you're feeling anxious about, being really uncomfortable and sweaty during a workout and having your muscles just ache and stuff, these things are your sign that you're doing it right, that validation that you're looking for.
Mm.
And we are like conditioned to be like, oh, the minute I feel that, well, go the other direction. And it's like, you were right there. You were right there. And I know that if somebody had possibly presented the idea that that feeling is the you're doing it right marker, that you might lean into that a little bit more, stick with things longer. Give them appropriate amounts of time. It's almost like a motivator, because once you start down this path of like, I'm seeking a certain level of discomfort because I want change. Once you start leaning into that, discomfort starts being a motivator. Like you feel it and you're like, oh shit, there it is. Yes. Okay. This means I'm on the right track. I want, like, for example, in the gym, if you're seeking discomfort as a motivator, and I'm not talking, guys, we need to just always have in mind, like, that doesn't mean puking. Like, that doesn't mean, come on, like, keep this in perspective. I'm talking about discomfort in the way of discomfort, not, that you have to be puking and like falling down, dying after your workout and stuff. That's ridiculous. I'm saying a level of discomfort is necessary to make progress in the gym. Okay. That's just the truth. And when you start to feel uncomfortable and say, like, yes, I'm doing it right, how much more likely are you to return the next day to go get that discomfort again? That's where I think you start building these habits that you always admire in other people, because it's not like I don't want to go back because I'm so sore and I'm scared of being sore again. And it's like, no, I felt that. I felt it. And I know what's coming next after that is like muscle growth and like lean body mass and getting in body composition changes. And I'm leaning into that. I want to go back and get a little sore again tomorrow. Like it's a cool reframe. Obviously, we're keeping everything within the parameters of what's reasonable. Like I hate when people take it and they're like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna be the sorest ever. Like, no, that's obviously not gonna be sustainable either. I'm saying, like, a certain level of discomfort being your marker that, like, yes, you want to keep going, and that's a motivator.
Mm. Yeah, I love that you had said being a marker for success too, because it's just like it's a the the thing that I think about when it comes to success. You kind of like look around, and we're always looking outside ourselves and being like, who is successful? Who is, and it's almost like success comes with like who is comfortable, like who is living in like a comfortable lifestyle, who is, doing these things that I would consider to be, successful all the time. They don't have to worry about money. They don't have to worry about, all of these other things. Like, how comfortable are you? And really, when it comes to when you start to like define, what success means for you, but like looking at discomfort being a sign of success is something that's like in the iceberg parts. When you see that like iceberg for success, and it's like part of the iceberg, like what's underneath the water is so much discomfort to be able to get to a place where you're almost like feeling comfortable. Let me explain that a little bit, because like feeling comfortable in my body came with discomfort. So I had to first feel very uncomfortable. Sometimes uncomfortable in my workout, sometimes like just feeling like uncomfortable in the first time you wear shorts, the first time you wear a crop top. Like all of those things were initially uncomfortable experiences for me personally. So I'm just going to say for me, they were initially uncomfortable, and they gave me eventually this level of comfort in my body that I can't even put words to, right? Like, you have the limitless idea of like the ability to do so many things, so much confidence in your body. Like you can just like go on a run, go on a hike, do all of these other things that like my body is not my limitation there. And when it comes to confidence, it's the same thing. Like I'm feeling confident, not because I reached a certain size or a certain body fat percentage or any of those things. It's because I was uncomfortable at one point in myself and in my body, and I challenged that, and I got uncomfortable to then feel comfortable. Does that make sense?
It's a freaking concept. And it's so, so important. It's like, if I could just give one piece of advice, it is that, like, it's not gonna just show up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna just show up. And it's going to take feeling uncomfortable wearing shorts many times
Yeah.
before you wear them unapologetically.
Yeah.
It's the work, the groundwork that has to be laid, and it's change, and change comes with discomfort. So if you're looking to change without it, it's not going to happen. It's not going to just show up. It's not going to knock on your door one day and go like, "Look, you've reached your goal weight. Here you are, ready to wear shorts." Like, it's
No.
just not like that. And it's so hard because it translates into everything, into your professional life, into your relationships. Like, I don't know anyone who's not that's in a super strong relationship, that the kind of relationship that people look at and admire, and hasn't also been in a ridiculously uncomfortable relationship where they had to go through all of this heartbreak and understanding that they were worthy of something that wasn't there. And it's like,
And even being uncomfortable in that relationship, like having, like getting deeper levels of like connection and communication comes with a level of discomfort. So you have to have uncomfortable conversations with people to make a connection with them. And I found this interesting because there's like two camps in that arena where like there's definitely a camp there where people are just like, I'm gonna sit here, like let silence hang and like sit and have uncomfortable conversations with people. And there is another camp that says like, I am on my phone. Like I am completely exiting this. Like we can't sit in an elevator with a stranger. We can't there's like plenty of examples that we have with this, like throughout your daily life. Like, so you're waiting in a waiting room and you're like, dude, your partner goes to the bathroom when you're sitting at the bar. You're like right on your phone because you don't want to like look around. Like, whoa, like you might make eye contact with someone. It could get weird. But like, what are
don't make
those?
it weird.
Don't make it weird, but like in those same, like in those relationships, like you don't get that level of understanding for another person, understanding for yourself, and the ability to work through some things and emotions and interactions that you have with other people without having those uncomfortable conversations with them. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I say to my son when he's like complaining that something is uncomfortable, I say, "Good, it's working. Good, it's
Mhm.
working." That is what you need to grow and get better at the thing that you're seeking. Maybe you're not seeking it because, you're 6 and you don't know yet, but I'll
Well, the
seek
whole
it
world
for
is
you.
uncomfortable for them, right? Because like you're having new experiences all the time. So it's one of those things that like we have like historically like just been exposed to like over and over. But as you're an adult, you have so much control over your like daily interactions, your daily routine, that you stop getting exposed to some of those uncomfortable situations. Like the first time he went up to kids at a playground was really uncomfortable. And you said like bring a toy. And now every time he just grabs a toy and runs over because like he's learned how to not be uncomfortable in those situations. But like as a 6-year-old, as kid, like if you guys have kids, like like so much of their lives is like new and uncomfortable all the time. So that's why they're growing so much and changing so much. But like they have that experience, and it's really important for us as adults to manufacture in many ways that same experience for ourselves.
Yeah, being comfortable, being uncomfortable
Mhm.
is, it's I think it's the precursor to everything that you want.
Yeah.
If you can understand how to sit in discomfort, drink it in, and allow it to be, I think that you can literally change anything that you want to
Mm.
change at any point. So, and the ability to change your circumstances, your job, your, lifestyle, like all of these things, the ability to change them is freedom. That's what it equals. It just equals freedom. And so like, I just encourage people, sign up for the ultra marathon,
Yeah.
you know,
Sign up
put,
for
yeah, like wear
Sign
the
up for the
shorts.
Zumba class. Sign up for like pole dancing if that's your thing. Like you're sitting on the outskirts and you're like, I don't know, like I want to try that thing, but I don't know, it's gonna be so uncomfortable. Like definitely sign up for it. And I just want to like the last tip that I wanted to give for ways to lean into discomfort is look at the language that we're using to describe discomfort. And my friend had done this, like, hi Jake, if you're listening, my friend had done this recently. He's like, kind of like living off the map a little bit right now. And he said, I'm in a cool change. I'm in a cool period of my life where I'm really uncomfortable and looking at the reasons why. And I was like, the fact that he said, like, I'm in a cool period of my life, like, I was just like, wow, that's a really great way to describe that, because sometimes we can't really say, like, I'm in this awesome place, or I'm in, you know what I mean? Because like we are either like sad or uncomfortable, or like something is going on, but like it is a cool opportunity. And for me, that really resonated with it because it was kind of neutral, right? Like it was kind of like it was an interesting way to like dabble in the way of like it's not negative. Like I could just look at this for like the experience that it is, and it is a cool experience. So I'm going to drink it in for that. So every time, like I just want to suggest for you guys to look at the language. Always look at the language of how you're describing things. I'm obsessed with it. It's weird. Like, I'm always looking at the language like
It
I'm
matters.
describing things, because it does matter, because I've
It
looked at
does.
like, I have the opportunity to train today. I get to train instead of I have to train. It's like, it completely shifts. But when you look at the language that you're using to describe something that you have historically described in a negative light, look at that language and try out some new ones. Try out some new language for how you're going to describe, a moment of change or a moment of feeling uncomfortable.
That right there is a catalyst for change. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself. Go out there and conquer it, guys, and prepare to feel uncomfortable and fucking love it.
I love it.
Fucking drink that in, because that is the human experience. We love you guys.